The village of Umudim was no longer at peace. Fear wrapped itself around the people like a dark cloud. The strange snake deaths had become too many to ignore. First, it was Okechukwu, then Nneka, then another, and another. The village elders gathered in the obi of the king, their faces grim. "This is not ordinary," said Ichie Okafor, the oldest among them. "Snakes do not kill like this. A snake must be seen before it strikes. Yet no one has seen these snakes." "It is a curse," muttered another elder, "a punishment from the gods." The king, Eze Obieze, sat on his high stool, his expression unreadable. He was an old man, his hair white as the morning mist, his body wrapped in rich red clothes. He had ruled Umudim for many years. He had seen wars, famines, and plagues. But this is different. "Summon the hunters," he commanded. "Tell them to search every corner of the village. If there are snakes among us, they must be found and destroyed." At sunrise, the best hunters of Umudim set out on their mission. Their leader, Dike, was a man feared for his strength and skill. He could kill a lion with a single spear. His body was covered with scars from battles with wild beasts. "We will search every hut, every farm, every hidden place," he told his men. "No snake will escape." The villagers watched as the hunters moved through the land, their weapons ready. They dug into holes. They searched the rivers, the burnt bushes. Yet, not a single snake was found. Not even one. But still, people kept dying. From her mother's tale in the market, Ifeanyioma watched the hunters with a secret smile. She knew they would find nothing. How could they? The snakes were her creations. They were not hidden in the earth. They are not slithering through the village. They were disguised as beads, waiting for their next victim. She looked at the people passing by. A woman admired the red beaded bracelet. A young boy reached for a necklace. If only they knew what they were holding. If only they knew that the moment they tied the beads around their waist, their fate was already sealed. She lowered her lashes, hiding the glint in her golden eyes. Her revenge was not yet complete. Days passed. The hunters returned to the king empty-handed. "We have searched everywhere, my king," Dike reported. "There are no snakes to be found." A heavy silence filled the palace. The elders exchanged troubled looks. "Then what is killing our people?" asked Ichie Okafor. Nobody had an answer. But that night, Obianuju started noticing that the people who patronized them was always the victim. That led her to ask herself so many questions. Why is it that it's anyone that patronizes that dies? Are these beads normal? But I make these beads myself. Is my daughter evil? She recalled the dream that gave birth to her existence. Is my daughter a snake? Obianuju's blood turned cold. That is a lie, she snapped. My daughter would never harm anyone. But even as she spoke, a shadow of doubt crept into her mind. She had seen things she could not explain. How Ifanyoma's golden eyes sometimes glowed in the dark. How the beads she touched always felt warm, almost alive. How the death always seemed to follow her sails. But no, it was just fear playing tricks on her. Her daughter was a gift from the gods and not a curse. That night, after they returned home from the market, Ifanyoma sat across from her mother. She watched her for a moment before speaking. "Mother, I want to work in the palace," she said. Obianuju frowned. "Why?" "I want to serve the king. I want to be a maid." Obianuju shook her head firmly. "No, my child. We are comfortable. You do not need to serve anyone." "But mother," I said no. Obianuju's voice was sharp. "You are too beautiful to be anyone's servant. We have all we need. Stay here and help me with the beads." Ifanyoma clenched her jaw. She had expected this. Her mother thought she was protecting her, but she was only standing in her way. And Ifanyoma did not allow obstacles to remain for long. That night, the village was silent. The moon was full, casting silver light over the land. Obianuju lay asleep on her mat, her breathing soft and peaceful. Ifanyoma knelt beside her, watching her face. A part of her almost hesitated. Her mother had cared for her, loved her, but love had no place in her heart. Not when she still had a mission to complete. She placed her hand on Obianuju's chest. Slowly, her finger tightened, her nails lengthened, turning into sharp curved claws. Obianuju's eyes flared open in shock. She gasped, struggling against the invisible force crushing her lungs. "Ifanyoma!" she choked. But Ifanyoma only smiled. "Rest, mother," she whispered. "I will do what I must do." Obianuju's body convulsed. Her eyes rolled back. Then she was still. Ifanyoma sat back, admiring her work. Her mother had given her life, and now she had taken it back. The next morning, the villagers mourned the sudden death of Obianuju. She was healthy, some cried. She was not sick. The gods had taken her. But Ifanyoma did not cry. She played her role well, bowing her head, receiving the condolences, nodding when people spoke of her mother's kindness. And once the burial was over, she wasted no time. She went straight to the palace and requested to become a maid. The palace servants were eager to have her. "Such beauty," they whispered. "She will surely please the king." If only they knew. Her journey had just begun, and the real hunt was only starting. Ifanyoma entered the palace with a bowed head and humble steps. But inside, she was filled with victory and hatred. She had removed the one person who could have stopped her. Now, nothing stood in her way. The palace of Umudim was grand, with high walls made of red clay and roofs covered in palm fronds. The air smelled of roasted yam and burning incense. The king's throne hall was the heart of the palace, where decisions were made, judgments were passed, and secrets were buried. Ifeanyioma knew she had to be careful. Her true enemy, the king, was protected by powerful rituals, but she would be patient, just as a snake waits in the grass before striking. The palace was filled with servants, young girls who swept the floor, fetched water, and prepared the king's meal. Most of them were ordinary, but some were cruel. The senior maid had power over the younger ones. They gave orders, punished mistakes, and took pleasure in making others suffer. Ifeanyioma watched them silently. They reminded her of the foolish hunters who mocked a snake before stepping too close. They did not know that the one they tormented was deadlier than all of them combined. The leader of the senior maids was a tall, sharp-tongued girl named Nwabuogu. She did not like Ifeanyioma. Perhaps it was because of her beauty, or the way the palace guards stole glances at her. Or maybe she simply sensed something unnatural about her. "You!" Nwabuogu snapped on Ifeoma's first day, throwing a pile of clothes at her. "Wash this before nightfall." Ifeanyioma said nothing. She simply picked up the clothes and carried them away. That night, as the maidens prepared for sleep, Nwabuogu's screams tore through the palace. Her roommates rushed to her bedside, only to find her body stiff and cold, her lips frozen in terror. 2 deep snake bites marked her neck. Yet, no one had seen a single snake enter the palace. The servant whispered in fear. The guards searched the rooms, but no answer came, and Ifeanyioma only smiled in the shadows, one obstacle removed. With Nwabuogu gone, the senior maids became silent. None dared to cross Ifeanyioma. She moved through the palace like the wind, quiet, graceful, unseen, but she never forgot her mission. She studied the king from afar. He was old and wise, his body covered in sacred chalk, his neck heavy with charms. She knew his protection was strong. The rituals performed before his coronations had built a strong wall around him. But even the strongest wall could crack. She only needed to find the weakness. One evening, palace buzzed with excitement. The crown prince was returning home. Ifeanyioma had heard of him. Obinna, the only son of the king, handsome, intelligent, fierce in battle. Every maiden in the palace spoke of him with admiration. But Ifeanyioma did not care for handsome warriors. She only cared about her revenge. And so she thought. Because the moment she laid eyes on him, something inside her shifted. She had expected a man. She had not expected him. His eyes burned like the rising sun. His smile was like the first rain after a dry season. And when he spoke, his voice was like a song she had never heard before. For the first time in her existence, Ifeanyioma felt something strange, a warmth she did not understand, a hesitation she had never known. She had come to kill, not to love. Yet, she could not look away from him. And that was dangerous. The palace of Umudim was alive with celebration. The crown prince, Obinna, had returned. Drums thundered in the courtyard. Dancers swayed like the wind. Women sang praises of his bravery. But Ifeanyioma stood frozen. hidden in the shadows of the great hall. Her heart pounded, an unfamiliar rhythm, strange and unsettling. She had prepared for this moment. She had planned to kill him. Yet, now that he stood before her, she found herself unable to move. She had never felt this way before. Obinna was dressed in the finest garments, his bronze skin glowing under the evening torches. His piercing eyes scanned the crowd as he greeted his father. Then they stopped on her. For a brief moment, Ifeanyioma felt exposed, as if he could see past her beauty, past her disguise, past the monster that lurked beneath. Their eyes met. The air between them grew thick. She quickly lowered her gaze and turned away. But it was too late. He had noticed her, and he was coming closer. Later that night, as Ifeanyioma walked down a deserted hallway, she heard footsteps behind her. She did not turn. She already knew who it was. "You," came the voice, deep and rich like a steady drum. She stopped, but did not face him. "What is your name?" he asked. She hesitated. No one had ever dared to ask. No one had ever spoken to her like this, she muttered. "Ifeanyioma," she finally said. She heard his smile before she saw it. "A beautiful name for a beautiful girl," he said. Her breath caught in her throat. She did not want to feel this. She could not feel this. So she did what she knew best. She ran into the shadows before he could say another word. That night, she lay awake, staring at the roof of the servants' quarters. She clenched her fists. "This is not why I am here." She had sworn to destroy this family. She had sacrificed too much to stop now. Her mother's death, the blood on her hands, the years of waiting. No mere prince could change that. And yet, his eyes haunted her. His voice echoed in her mind. For the first time, doubt crept into her heart. Was it possible? Could a serpent fall in love? She shook her head, disgusted with herself. No, love was for the weak, and she was no weakling. She had come to kill the king, and she would not fail. But deep inside, a terrifying thought whispered, "What if you already have?" Ifeanyioma tried to ignore the unsettling warmth in her chest. She had spent years perfecting the art of deception, smiling when necessary, bowing when required, hiding her true self behind the masks of innocence. But Obinna's eyes saw too much. Whenever he passed, she felt his gaze linger, and each time something inside her shifted, something she did not understand and didn't want to understand. She reminded herself of her mission. The king must die. The prince was nothing but an obstacle. Yet, the more she told herself this, the more she felt like a liar. One evening, while the maids prepared the king's meal, Obinna entered the servants' quarters. Gaps filled the room. A prince never stepped into such places. All the maidens bowed instantly, their eyes glued to the ground, except Ifeanyioma. She stood frozen, fighting the urge to run. "You," Obinna said, pointing directly at her. The room fell silent, heart pounding. She slowly stepped forward. "Follow me," he commanded. Whispers followed them as she walked behind him. Her hands clasped tightly together. Where was he taking her? Had he discovered something? Did he know what she was? He led her to a quiet garden behind the palace. The moon bathed everything in silver light. "Why do you avoid me?" Obinna asked. Ifeanyioma looked away. "I do not avoid you, my prince." He chuckled, crossing his arms. "Then why do you run whenever I come near?" She said nothing. She could not tell him the truth, that she was a curse upon his family, that she had come to end his bloodline, that she had already taken the lives of many. "I see the way you look at me," Obinna continued, stepping closer. "You try to hide it, but I see it.